Well, it was a day that really changed the fortunes of two franchises because the Flyers changed, but the Avalanche really made out in that deal. They ended up winning a couple of cups, and should the Flyers have made the deal, revisionist history, of course. But Steve Coates from the Flyers Radio Network, I'm sure, Coatesy, that story is very famous in hockey lore because Lindros was he was going to be the next Gretzky. He was the guy, and the Flyers got their hands on him, but the Rangers wanted to get in there. The Quebec Nordiques had the pick, but Lindros didn't want to play there. Maybe that was a sign that the Flyers should have stayed away. Who knows what would have happened if they never made that trade. But take us back to what you remember about all the chaos around the Lindros situation and him getting to Philadelphia.
Well, I guess when you look back at it, the Rangers and the Flyers had supposedly come to an both the Rangers and the Flyers thought they had a deal. Marcel Aubut obviously was playing two against the middle to get the best possible deal he could get for the Quebec Nordiques. And when you take a look at that trade, obviously the sneaky part of it was Peter Forsberg. The front end of it with Duchesne and Ronnie Hextall, Kerry Huffman, that was the bulk of it body-wise. And on top of the two number ones, one of the number ones was Jocelyn Thibault, a goaltender, and there was another, actually a tough guy that was a big part of Colorado's run to the Stanley Cup, and I'm just going blank on his name, that was in that deal from Philadelphia to Quebec.
Ricci.
But, well, Mike Ricci was another number one pick that was in it. Duchesne was the number one. All these guys were all high-end players, but there was a tough player that went and was a big part of the Colorado run to the Stanley Cup. I'm just going blank on it now, but it definitely turned out really well for what eventually was the Colorado Avalanche, and specifically for Peter Forsberg. For the Philadelphia Flyers, I'd say the number one benefit for that trade for the Flyers was the ability to be able to have Eric Lindros in a Flyer uniform at a time where they were building the new building to sell the tickets in the new building. That was the number one thing that really paid off for them. Did he pay off for us as far as his ability to win Stanley Cups? Obviously not. He put out big numbers in his early years. And I would imagine you could probably get into some pretty good arguments about who got the better of that deal.
Chris Simon, maybe who you're looking for there, Coatsy?
Yeah, Chris Simon. Yeah, Chris Simon was a big part. He was a big tough guy.
So 25 years ago today that happened, but this week, Steve Coates, we've got lots of Flyers things happening, including Braden Shen moved on in a trade, Jordan Weal signs a contract. There's all kinds of Flyers taking place here. But before we move on to that, I do want to ask you a little bit about Eric Lindros and the impact then that he left on the Flyers. First and foremost, has he made peace in your mind with the organization because it was rocky at times?
Well, I think he made peace with the people that are here. I think that he and Clarkie have made peace. And, you know, it wasn't an easy road. I got to be real honest with you. I mean, he made the National Hockey League or the Pro Hockey or the Hockey Hall of Fame. I apologize. But, I mean, it was not an easy road. I mean, it was not something that was really at some time with his parents involved all the time. It was very hard on all people or everybody that was involved with the organization, the players, the management, and it became a sideshow. And it wasn't a time that I look back with any kind of affection. There was, I mean, when you look back at the year, the best series he had was the year we went on to play the Detroit Red Wings in the Stanley Cup, the series against the New York Rangers. He was absolutely spectacular. Unbelievable. But when he came to other times, I think that he wasn't what we thought he was going to be as far as when it was the crunch time was there. His numbers on a day-to-day basis per game were probably the number one reason he got into the Hall of Fame. No two ways about it. Points per game were very impressive. But I've always felt that you got to be really, really looked upon as a highly successful player, a special player. You got to have that cup, and that didn't happen.
Coachy, would you say he was a popular guy when he was here? I mean, was he well liked? Was there a disconnect because of his I don't want to say celebrity status, but I mean, he was a very high profile player. I mean, looking back at that time, there wasn't social media or anything, but was he a guy that the other guys got along with? Was he, you know what I mean? Like, was he connect? Did he connect with his teammates?
Well, I think he had his moments. I think he had good times. He had tough times. I mean, because of his family involved all the time, it became very tough. And, he was here a long time. So that's the way I'd say it was a roller coaster as far as that was concerned.
You look at, obviously the Flyers did not win a Stanley Cup, but he raised the level of the franchise. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, in the middle 90s, yes. No two ways about it. Absolutely. And I think that he was a no-show in the Detroit final, and that certainly hurt. I never dreamt that we'd get beat by Detroit. I thought we were so good against the Rangers that year. Leclerc and Lindros were scary good, but it didn't work out like that in the final, and I think that was a big disappointment, and that's something that I remember.
Steve Coates with us, the Flyers radio analyst. Coates, I didn't remember this. In 92, he played his first game in Quebec. Flyers did lose the game 6-3, but I forgot that the fans were throwing batteries and bullets and golf balls and coins and pacifiers. I mean, bullets, that seems worse than snowballs at Santa Claus, doesn't it?
Yeah, he didn't. Yeah, but you see, that was his family again. His family refused to let him play in Quebec. Well, that was probably, and I'll say this, when you think about having your mom and dad dictate to what you do into your adult years, what chance do you have? And that was probably the biggest deterrent he had. And it might have been the deterrent that didn't allow him to get over the top. And I think when you look at that and you look at, he was an unbelievable player. 6'5", 225, 230, could skate as good as anybody. Was tough, willing to drop the gloves, could shoot the puck, but it never came to a climax as far as that ability.
Yeah,
and I think that had a lot to do with it.
Hey, Coatsy, let's get a quick couple things on today's team. Jordan Weal last night agreed, so they're going to get him back, and that's a big positive because he was a spark for that team late.
He was huge, and I'm really glad that they got him under contract. There was a worry that he was going to go to Vancouver, but now that he's here, I think this kid's really, really talented. Not the biggest guy in the world, but he's one of those guys that has a knack to get to the right areas, to put himself in an opportunity to score. He's also really smart. He's got really good hockey sense, and we put him in a position last year where he played the right side as a left-hand. No, he played the left side as a right-hand shot, and he's a center, and he still excels. So I'm looking forward to seeing him, and I'd really like to see us put him at center, but let's see what happens.
Coatsy, what can you tell us about Brian Elliott, as there's reports out there that that's who the Flyers will sign from Calgary?
Oh, he's had good years. I mean, he had some really good years in St. Louis. I think he had a little bit of a tough time in Calgary, but he's a veteran. He's been around a lot. And when you can get a veteran that has an opportunity to, let's say, straighten things out after being with the Calgary Flames and not having it work out, I think it's a good thing. I mean, I looked around at all the free agents that are there, and I think Elliott's probably the best of the bunch.
Yeah, some reports that he'll get a 3-year deal, about $2.75, and that means Steve Mason, his time in Philly will be up. His agent kind of said yesterday that he will not come back. So a lot of Flyers news last night, free agency underway, and 25 years ago, the Big E came to Philly, and that means you've been here a long time, Coatsy.
Yeah, a long time. Long time.
By the way, Peter and I had lunch with Mike Gill Sr. today, and he told us some great stories of the Eric Lindros years when you two used to have a couple of Shastas together.
Well, back in the day when I used to stop at Diorio's after the games when I was living down there, I did have a couple of stories, and Mike's probably heard every one of the true ones.
He said that you got there from Philly there in 47 minutes.
Record time.
Record time.
All right, 47? Seems like a long time.
He said it got shorter. And
He says that seems like a long time.
That's how I got the nickname Air Coates.
Yeah.
But guess what? You know, for all the state troopers that are listening, it's all a fallacy.
Right. It's just
that was a past life. That was a past life. But yeah, my father sends you his wishes, his best, and he wanted us to tell you hello.
Well, my best back to him, and I appreciate him saying that.
All right, Steve Coates, the Flyers open for business. If something happens, we'll let you know. Coates, appreciate it. Have a great 4th, pal.
You guys too. Thank you.